Now, after 6 straight wins, Lin has become the biggest star in sport.
Jeremy Lin is a guy who nobody thought was even a rotation player, possibly, a few weeks back. And he's doing things that usually we only see all-stars do.
Lin puts it up. Bang! Jeremy Lin from downtown, and the Knicks take the lead.
Linsanity is over in New York. The Knicks have confirmed that they decided not to match Houston's 3-year offer to Jeremy Lin.
In 2012, Jeremy Lin took the NBA by storm. Somehow, an undrafted player out of Harvard was dominating on the court while carrying a dysfunctional Knicks team. While it was for a short period, Linsanity was a special moment that most Knicks fans will never forget. Everybody loves an underdog story. The fact that an overlooked Asian basketball player played like a legit all-star was insanely awesome. This is the story of Linsanity. In 2006, Jeremy Lin was barely on anyone's radar, but he was one of the top high school basketball players in California. His senior year of high school, he averaged 15 points, 6 assists, 7 boards, and 5 steals a game while leading his team to a dominant 32-1 record. Because of his individual excellence, he was named first team All-State, but despite having a great high school career, Lin was overlooked by college scouts and received no D1 offers. According to Steve Donahue, the current head coach of the Penn Quakers, scouts weren't impressed with Lin because he didn't look athletic and didn't shoot it well. He was also pretty skinny at just 6'1" and 170 pounds. As a result of no D1 offers, Lin sent his high school tape to multiple Ivy League schools. After thoroughly scouting Lin, he became Harvard's top recruit. Unfortunately, Ivy League schools like Harvard couldn't offer him a scholarship, but he would definitely be on the team. Lin's college career at Harvard didn't get off to a great start. He only averaged 5 points in 18 minutes per game and was labeled by an assistant coach as the weakest guy on the court. But Jeremy Lin would improve every year in college. He more than doubled most of his averages, putting up 13 points, 5 boards, and 4 assists per game in his sophomore year. And by his junior year, Lin was averaging 18 points, 5 boards, 4 assists, and 2.4 steals a game, and was selected to the All-Ivy League first team. And finally, in his senior year, his numbers were once again excellent, averaging 16 points, 4 assists, and 4 steals a game. He was once again All-Ivy League first team, and one of his best games of the year came against Kemba Walker and UConn, where he finished the game with 30 points, and he did this while maintaining an impressive 3.1 GPA. Despite getting 0 D1 offers, Lin had a great college career. Other D1 teams like UCLA were probably kicking themselves for not recognizing Lin's talent during the scouting process. But despite Lin's excellent college career, he didn't hear his name called during the 2010 NBA draft. NBA scouts simply didn't believe he was an NBA talent. They didn't think he had a good enough jumper, they thought he was too thin, and they thought he would struggle to defend at the NBA level. But what those scouts didn't realize was that Lin had a great work ethic that would eventually lead to the rise of Linsanity. Furthermore, while Lin may not look like your typical NBA player, he was extremely athletic. During the pre-draft process, Lin measured with the second highest top speed in the 2010 draft class, right behind John Wall. Despite being labeled as deceptively quick, it turns out Lin was actually one of the fastest players in the league. Despite his impressive speed, all 30 teams passed on Lin at the draft, but they would eventually regret that decision. Fortunately for Lin, while he went undrafted, he did get a summer league invite for the Mavericks, a great opportunity for him to show his worth. Jeremy Lin played well in summer league, including a 13-point and 6 assist game against John Wall and the Washington Wizards. He made a great impression in that game, giving John Wall buckets on the offensive end, while also playing excellent defense against Wall on the less glamorous end. Thanks to his impressive showing in Summer League, Lin received multiple offers, but he ended up going to his hometown Golden State Warriors. In the 2010-11 season, Lin didn't get much burn. He only played about 10 minutes a game in 29 games for the Warriors that season. As a result of the lack of playing time, the Warriors sent him down to the D-League multiple times where Lin thrived. As soon as the season was over, Lin headed straight to the lab to improve as a player. He put in work to improve his strength, and after being labeled thin for most of his basketball career, he was now a solid 200 pounds. He also made himself more athletic by increasing his vertical and lateral quickness. He also briefly played for the China Basketball Association, but unfortunately for Lin, despite his hard work, he was cut from the Warriors the first day of training camp. He was later picked up by the Rockets, but after just 2 preseason games, he was cut again. But Lin gained another opportunity when he signed with the Knicks at the start of the season. He had a chance to earn a backup role behind Baron Davis, but he also had to compete with Mike Bibby and Tony Douglas for minutes. Unfortunately for Lin, he was at the bottom of the pecking order midway through the season and barely played. The Knicks were thinking about cutting him, but in February, Lin finally achieved the chance that he would absolutely capitalize on. Despite having a talented team that consisted of Carmelo, Amari Stoudemire, and Tyson Chandler, the Knicks got off to a brutal 8-15 start. Baron Davis was injured, and Tony Douglas and Mike Bibby had failed to run D'Antoni's offense. Out of desperation, D'Antoni played Jeremy Lin on February 4th against the New Jersey Nets, and the Knicks not only won, but Lin finished the game with 25 points and 7 assists. After that impressive performance, D'Antoni started Lin against the Utah Jazz. Carmelo left the game early with a groin injury and Stoudemire wasn't there, but Lin dominated the game in their absence, finishing with 28 points and 8 assists as the Knicks won by 11 points. Next, Jeremy Lin had his biggest test yet, a game where he will go on the road against Washington and face one of the better point guards in the league in John Wall. Lin scored 23 points and dropped 10 dimes as the Knicks got their 3rd straight win. Next, on Friday, Jeremy Lin and the Knicks would face Kobe in a nationally televised game. Kobe was asked about Lin before the game and said he barely knew anything about him.
Are you surprised at the production that Lin's had over the past week?
I don't even know what he's done. I have no idea what you guys are talking about. I'll take a look at it tonight, though.
In that game, Kobe would finish with 34 points, but Lin would be an absolute showstopper, finishing with a career high 38 points and winning the showdown against the Lakers and the Black Mamba. And for the last game of the week, Lin scored 20 points and dropped 8 assists as the Knicks got their 5th straight victory against the Timberwolves. During that stretch of games, Lin averaged 27 points and 8 assists per game while leading the Knicks to an undefeated week. Because of that, he won the Player of the Week award. He also broke the record for the most points by a player in their first 4 starts. How is it that an undrafted player out of Harvard was able to play at a superstar level? Well, as I've said before, Lin at the time was one of the quickest players in the league. That speed, combined with his crossovers and hesitation moves, allowed him to easily get by defenders and finish at the basket. And he drew a lot of contact on his drives to the rim. That season, he averaged over 5 free throw attempts a game and shot them at an impressive 80%. Lin was also a good playmaker where he could use his penetration abilities to find open shooters or dish it to the big men in the paint. A lot of his passes came out of the pick and roll where he was good at dishing it to the roll man. Thanks to his quickness, basketball IQ, and passing shots, he was playing at an all-star level. But Lin's dominance didn't stop that week. The next game, the Knicks had to go on the road to play the Raptors. The Raptors got off to a quick start, and the Knicks found themselves down 11 by halftime. Jose Calderon absolutely lit the Knicks up in the first half with 25 points, but the Knicks made a key adjustment. They put Shumpert, an excellent perimeter defender, on Calderon, and as a result, Calderon went scoreless in the second half, and Lin went off, finishing the game with 27 points and 11 assists, and drilling a game-winning pull-up three-pointer to give the Knicks the win. In the following game, Lin scored 10 points and dropped 13 dimes as the Knicks crushed the Kings for their 7th straight victory. Lin had completely revitalized the Knicks. After winning 7 in a row, the Knicks were now at 500 and back in the playoffs. Lin was an awesome underdog story of how an undrafted Harvard kid was able to come out of nowhere and save a New York Knicks team suffering an underwhelming season. During that same period, viewership of Knicks games skyrocketed, ticket sales went up, and Lin had the highest selling jersey at the time. The craze surrounding Lin's improbable rise to stardom was coined Linsanity. The Knicks' winning streak would eventually break at a loss to the Hornets, but Lin would continue to play well and help the Knicks get wins. But Stoudemire and Carmelo would both return to the lineup alongside Lin, and their games didn't really mesh well on the court. The Knicks would lose 6 games in a row, and Mike D'Antoni, the coach whose offensive system helped Lin rise to stardom, would resign. Mike Woodson would eventually take over as head coach, and things quickly turned around for the better. The Knicks would win 6 of their next 7 games, and Lin would continue to contribute to wins as the Knicks' starting point guard. But tragically, in a March 24th game against the Pistons, Lin would exit the game due to knee soreness, and we would eventually find out that he suffered a torn meniscus, effectively ending his season. The Knicks would go on to finish the season strong, going 18-6 under Mike Woodson and finishing as the 7th seed, but lose to the Miami Heat in the first round of the playoffs in 5 games. Lin could only watch the playoff series from the bench. Then came the 2012 offseason. Knicks fans thought they finally had their point guard of the future in Jeremy Lin. Sure, it was only a small sample size of games, but at 23 years old, there was still plenty of reason for optimism. Unfortunately, the 2011-12 season would be Lin's one and only year on the Knicks. That offseason, Lin was a restricted free agent, meaning the Knicks could match any offer sheet for Lin. The front office told Lin to figure out his market value and go find a contract offer. The Rockets, who really wanted Lin that offseason, offered him a $29 million contract over 4 years, with the 4th year of that deal being a team option, which put the true commitment at $19 million. Mike Woodson told the media that the Knicks would match Houston's offer and that Lin would be his starting point guard. Afterwards, the Rockets then offered a revised 3-year $25 million deal, which guaranteed the 3rd year and gave Lin an extra guaranteed $5 million. Dolan was offended that Lin would try to get more money out of him, so he made the decision to not match that offer sheet, and Lin was headed to Houston. The Knicks traded for Raymond Felton to replace Lin as their starting point guard soon after. While the Linsanity period was awesome, it was sad that it ended prematurely. A lot of fans have blamed Carmelo for the end of Lin in New York, but truly it was James Dolan's fault for the end of Linsanity. Dolan made an emotional, not a logical decision to let Lin walk for nothing. He was offended by Lin squeezing another $5 million out of him. From a team perspective, it's very foolish to let a promising young player walk for nothing. But even from a financial perspective, this was overall a net loss. Dolan made an extremely short-sighted move because the extra $5 million he would have to pay would easily have more than been made up in extra TV sales, ticket sales, and jersey sales thanks to Lin's insane popularity. If anyone is to blame for Lin's departure, it's the man that turned the Knicks from a respectable franchise to a laughingstock since he's been the owner of the team. Lin later stated that he wanted to stay in New York. He even tried to get his agent to get Houston to lower the offer sheet, but Houston wasn't budging. Felton would have a solid year with the Knicks, but fall off a cliff the very next year. Jeremy Lin and the Knicks is undoubtedly a marriage that divorced way too quickly, but it was awesome while it was happening. But the story of how a skinny Asian basketball player overcame the odds and rose to stardom for a few weeks is something Knicks fans will never forget. Anyway guys, that's going to be the end of our short documentary on Linsanity. Do you think the Knicks made a mistake by not keeping Lin? How would he have fared if he stayed around? Tell me in the comments. Make sure to like and subscribe, and have a great rest of your day.